Strap into your seats and get ready. It's time for the Mortarpod.
Hey everybody, Alex Stephenson, Jake Faas here. Welcome to this week's episode of the Mortarpod. Quick plugs off the top. Follow us on Twitter at SeemsGoodMagic for updates on when we post new videos or when a new podcast is up. Stream times are Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central Time, and that's at twitch.tv/Inez27. And then email me, mortarpod@seemsgoodmagic.com, and I'll respond to you. So feel free to email me with any questions or concerns, criticisms, whatever. I've started the Seems Good Magic card giveaway, and we're on week 2 of that. So keep up with those. That's going to be a weekly thing where I give one card away and ask questions and stuff like that. Okay, on to this week. We haven't spoiled the Born of the Gods cards yet, so we're going to do that. There's really only one new one. They are reprinting Springleaf Drum, which we haven't seen since Lorwyn, is that right?
Yep.
And then we have 3 of the temple cards revealed.
The allied scry temples.
Okay. So let's talk about the Planeswalker. So it's Kiora the Crashing Wave. She's 2 colorless, a green and a blue, for a 2 loyalty Planeswalker with +1 until your next turn. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to and dealt by target permanent and opponent controls. -1, draw a card. You may play an additional land this turn, or -5. You get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, put a 9/9 blue Kraken creature token onto the battlefield. So, what are your first impressions about this card before anybody's played it?
I think it's cool. I really like it. I like that she protects herself while getting stronger, so they have to commit more to the board. So, I initially think that it's cool for band control or some sort of control build where you can keep them at 1 creature on the board and then sweep once they have to get more than 1 with her out, just to keep her under control. I guess in a rug build with Anger of the Gods or with white, and you can play Supreme Verdict, or even with black and just play a lot of spot removal and Devour Flesh. I think that she could be a really good control element. I like her ultimate being a finisher. That really makes her good. And the -1, just having 2 explorers on a stick, it's cool. It's kind of similar to Ralzeric in the middle ability, I guess. Ralzeric is pretty much mostly useful for his middle ability, but she's actually, I think, pretty versatile in what she can do for you. And just letting her absorb some damage with the draw a card and make them kill her thing isn't bad either.
Yeah, I like the fact that her +1 hits Mutavault. There's really not a lot of things that stop Manland, and Mutavault's a pretty popular card right now, especially for the mono black and the mono blue Devotion, both of which are the top 2 decks right now. So the fact that this, like you said, for control can turn off Mutavault is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I guess against the mono blue Devotion deck, turning off their Thassa before it's activated, when you suspect they're going to be able to play the 2 spells like a Night Veil and any other spell to get the Devotion, or if they already have something out and a Night Veil is all they need, you can at least stop yourself from taking 5 potentially.
It would have been cool if it turned off activated abilities too.
But the gaseous form thing, or that's kind of what they want it to be, is a fog and gaseous form variant, or like fog bank variant. So that's a cool way to see the interaction of blue and green that I didn't really think of, them having access to that ability together. They usually do, I guess, green-white has access to that mostly, but it's cool to see it here represented in a defensive way, almost exclusively, I guess.
I could see it played as like a 1 or a 2 of alongside Jace Architect of Thought, some
Hmm.
sort of distribution of those two.
Hmm.
Because I feel like they do play relatively well together. Jace protecting you and this protecting you from a big target.
Hmm.
So I bet in conjunction with each other they'd be
Like a
really
Turbo
nice.
Fog build would really like this,
Yeah, definitely. Getting more cards, getting more lands down.
and just having a fog that's always out there that I can always activate, if you only have one threat available.
It sucks that it's always vulnerable when you play it to like a lightning strike.
Hmm.
I mean, if that's going to be a high risk, it's cool that it just comes in cantrips and forces a spell on it. So, I mean, I think it's just the loyalty is kind of a major issue with this card
Hmm.
for 4 mana.
Yeah,
I mean, we're just not used to seeing 2 loyalty, I think, on a Planeswalker.
yeah. I mean, typically, I guess typically is a weird way to say it because I think Nissa Ravain is the only other 2 for 4 loyalty, but she had double plus ability.
Hmm.
Um, so it's interesting to look at one that has a negative ability that's actually very attractive. You really want to draw a card and play an additional land most of the time. But you can also get her out on turn 3 pretty consistently in any deck that has green. So that's something to think about. She's really a 3 mana 2 a lot of the time because green can just play the Sylvan Caryatid.
Yeah, well, I'm interested to see if she sees play. I think it, like I said, it's probably going to be as like a 1 or 2 of alongside Jace is the only decks I would really see running her.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really it for spoilers so far. I'm sure we're going to be seeing. I bet by the time next week we'll probably have some more. You think? I mean, we're nearing the last month before the release of Born of
Yeah,
the Gods,
actually, I
so.
think they start on Tuesday, so the next time we should have quite a few to talk about.
But the Planeswalker is an exciting way to start it off.
Hmm.
Is this going to be the only one in the set?
I would assume so. They might throw an extra one in, but I feel like the best time to put an extra one in is at the end of the block to introduce a character that might not have something to do with it. It'll be interesting to see what Kiora has to do with this plane because she doesn't really look like the native Tritons, I guess they're called.
Oh, I see.
So, you know, it'll just be interesting to see why she's here.
Yeah, you'll have to lure us up to date
Yeah,
on what the hell's going on with that.
hopefully we'll get a better explanation later on.
Well, let's move on to metagame breakdown for this week.
Metagame breakdown.
All right, metagame breakdown. We're going to start off with you, Jake. You were switched up a little bit. I think last week, what were you playing? Mono black? Is that what you did last week? And the week before that, you did your green,
Green
or
red.
maybe it was. No, I think it was
green
that.
red
Yeah.
devotion. Yeah.
So now you made it blue-white control. So you've done quite a few decks now because you were doing Esper control before that.
Mhm.
So at this point, you've done Esper control, mono black control, red green devotion,
And
and now blue-white control.
yeah, and I actually started the new standard with this deck and really liked it then. But as standard has come along, and I played this deck on Friday, did not fare so well and did not really like it. Really missed having access to Heroes Downfall and Far and Away. Those cards are like MVPs for me. And even Ashiok, having access to another Planeswalker that's a kill condition, and Obsidat. Like, there were a lot of things that I missed with not having black. But I'll just go over the list I ran. So it was 1 Aetherling, 2 Elspeth, 4 Jace, 2 Mutavaults were in my mana base, and then I was doing 2 Temple of Deceit, 2 Temple of Silence, just to have some of the Scryland. But otherwise, I was all in on the multicolor Azorius, Guildgate, Hallowed Fountain, 6 Plains, and 7 Islands. Then for my spells, I had 4 Detention Sphere, 3 Azorius Charm, 1 Elixir of Immortality, 4 Dissolve, 1 Essence Scatter, 4 Divination, 4 Sphinx's Revelation, 4 Supreme Verdict, and 2 Quicken.
So you got a chance to do the Quicken divination sort of plan because
Yeah.
we'd looked over some decks that had done that.
Yeah,
Or Quicken Supreme Verdict, I guess.
I think the problem I had mostly the Supreme Verdict thing would have been nice. But, however, I was playing mostly not aggro or mid-range decks at all on Friday. So my problem was that I was playing against a lot of decks, a lot of other control variant decks that were, you know, it was my game plan to go against aggro and mid-range, and they were a lot better off against me because they had access to cards like Hero's Downfall and Thoughtseize, and I did not have those cards. So it was a pretty bad evening for me.
Okay.
I played Esper Control in the first round, or first match, and I lost 1-2. I feel like that's even wrong. I think I really lost 0-2. I don't remember beating him. He like totally hosed me. He got me in the first match because he was ready to deal with my threats, and I had no real outs to his stuff. I hate not having access to instant speed spot removal with this deck, and you know, you can just drop an Obsidat and sit there on that the whole game basically, and I can't do anything because I can't charm it. I have to Supreme Verdict, and I can't even do that. So without access to Hero's Downfall, the deck totally just folds to a resolved Obsidat. He was able to like rip my hand apart with Thoughtseizes and more duresses out of the board. He played Notion Thief against me out of the board, and that really hurt. Yeah, it was a really what's the word? Discouraging first match. Just lost terribly. Second round, I played against Jund, and I did win in the game 3. Won the match off of Jace Memory Adept. I milled him out. I could have like killed him also with damage, I think, at that point.
And what were the threats he was running in that deck?
He was mostly trying to get me with Rakdos' Return, I think. I'm trying to think of what creatures he was even running to kill me. Maybe just Desecration Demons. But he had the Hero's Downfall. He was playing Slaughter Games. He was playing Thoughtseize. I'm assuming Abrupt Decay too to take out the... he had 3 Pithing Needles after boarding and named
Jeez.
Aetherling, Elspeth, and Jace with all of them.
So you really only have Mutavault at that point?
Well, I brought in my Ratchet Bomb.
Okay.
And
could also
he had
Detention
actually
Sphere
he
the
had Slaughter
Pithing
Games
Needles.
made Detention Spheres. In that
Oh, I
game.
see.
So
Okay.
he was like planning to get me. Basically, didn't have to worry about the Detention Spheres anymore. But the Ratchet Bomb off the top saved me in that game. And then I came back to win that one. Against Mill, again, I got caught kind of with my pants down at every point that was I needed to not get caught with my pants down. He, obviously, in my main deck, I'm playing the 4 Supreme Verdicts, and they're totally useless. Even the 4 Detention Spheres are useless. The 3 Azorius Chimes might as well be useless. I mean, there's nothing... I have so little that's good
like,
against him.
Miracle Vosk and Consuming Aberration, right?
Yeah. But I can dissolve those, I guess. I'm sure I took out the Supreme Verdicts and at least 2 of the Detention Spheres after boarding, just because they're totally useless against him. At the point when he's dropping a 5-drop, I can probably counter it with a Dissolve or an Essence Scatter. So, yeah, he landed all his mill spells, and he got me. I was really close to thinking I had him. I got my Jace ultimate off on Jace Architect of Thought when I was at like 2 cards left in my deck. I stole a Consuming Aberration from his deck, and then I just protected it with Counter Magic while milling him, and he got it eventually with a Turn and Burn, and I would have been able to just one-hit kill him, but he got it with the Turn and Burn after it was all said and done, because he had stockpiled counter spells in his hand too. So anyway,
that sucks.
Yep. And then my last match was mono black with splash white. I guess it was a devotion deck. He had the whip and Obsidian combo, but it was definitely running off of the Gray Merchant. So, got me in the end. I think he had a lot of disruption in the games where he won, and I couldn't stop the Undercity or Underworld connections at the right moment. It just kind of panned out badly for me. In the end, I realized that not having black was really, really hurting my chances of winning. And
I see. So it is an Esper control.
yeah,
It's just not quite the place for blue-white right now.
yeah, blue-white is good against aggro and aggro meta, and I really do
Okay.
believe that. And if white-green was popular, or even red-green is popular, then this style of deck is probably really good still. Maybe less so with red-green if that's popular because of the spot removal with black is just so good against their monsters. But if it's a mono-white aggro deck or a red aggro heavy meta, then this deck is probably okay. But in our meta, there's a lot of black based control decks out there, and they are just superior to a regular white blue control deck because they can disrupt your hand, and all of that stuff. I have no defense against it with blue white, so I just get to take all of the thought seizes and duresses or whatever slaughter games, and it's fine that that's the way it is. Actually, I don't mind that black is really good right now because black has gotten the shaft for a while, I feel, in the control department. So kudos to them to bringing it back to being a control color. Anyway, I will not be playing that deck this week. So.
Okay. So what do you think? You're probably gonna go back to Esper, or are you gonna experiment
I
around?
want to just play around a little bit. This is the point when the format is kind of stale for me, and I want to just see what else is out there for potential strategies that could come out once the next set is out too.
All right. Well, I'll go through my F&M. So this week, I think is the last week I'm gonna be playing this deck. It's Boros aggro, and usually Boros aggro is like a white weenie deck, but this one is like a red deck wins strategy, splashing white for Chain to the Rocks and Boros Charm. But it's Rakdos Cacklers, Fire Drinkers Satyrs, Burning Tree Emissaries, Fire Fist Strikers, Gorehouse Chainwalkers, and Chandra's Phoenixes, and then it's got Shock, Lightning Bolt, or Lightning Strike, Chain to the Rocks, and a couple Boros Charms. And then the mana base is 10 Mountains, 4 Mutavaults, 4 Sacred Foundry, 4 Temple of Triumph. Last week I brought in 2 Last Breaths, took out the Wear and Tear, and an Electrickery. And the Last Breath is really for another out for the Master of Waves, because, well, Mono Blue's not terribly popular in our meta, but the Mono Blue player that is there consistently is hitting top 8, so you just want to make sure that you have good sideboard tools for that. And I think a lot of decks are running main deck Mistcutter Hydras now because they double as good against the control builds, but obviously the Mono Blue Devotion being the main reason to run it. So I went 2-2 overall for the night. Still made top 8 though. I was the only 2-2 that could make top 8. So round 1 I played against a black-white aggro list, and this is like a black-white humans sort of thing, Soldier of the Pantheon. And then this is kind of a new deck that sort of popped up. It's got like stuff like, I'm not sure if this one was running Cartel Aristocrat, but like Precinct Captain, so the cheap threats and the Brave the Elements. But then it does stuff like Obsidian and Blood Baron as its mid-range strategy, like 1 or 2 main deck and maybe a couple more sideboard. So it kind of is cool because it's good against aggro decks, because it has early threats that can meet up, and then it's just got bigger threats later that do really swingy life total things. Like Blood Baron and well, mostly Blood Baron is like the main, I feel like, Esper control win con.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty good against mono black devotion since they can't Hero's Downfall. They have to Devour Flesh. I'm thinking, because they also run like Ultimate Price, which wouldn't hit, and Doomblade, which doesn't hit. So really, it's pretty much they've got to do the Devour Flesh. So that's just an integral aspect or part of that match for the mono black, which is why they're packing for Devour Flesh main deck right now. So being good against that and seeing 2 in all these Esper control lists, I think also goes a long way for these aggro mid-range lists. And I did manage to beat him. I think he was just borrowing a buddy's deck, so he wasn't, super familiar with it. Maybe he didn't keep the best hands. I think there was a game where we both mulled to 5 as well, which is always awkward.
Yeah.
But I did manage to take him to a round 2. I played against Esper Control, which I don't really like the match in general. Control matches for aggro, usually, like you said, they're geared to defeat aggro. You just really have to make sure you can power out fast enough. So game 1, I think I lost game 1 actually, and managed to take the next 2 games. But usually when a Jace resolves, it's super good against me. So I almost want to just keep the pressure on them rather than focus on Jace, because there's nothing worse than pegging down Jace and finally getting him down, and then they follow with another Jace.
Yeah.
So it's almost like just let them +1 and get in whatever damage you can is sort of what my strategy is. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. And sometimes it pays off. Sometimes it gets really hairy if you step into a Supreme Verdict. But there's nothing they can take that's like super devastating with the Jace Ultimate either.
Yeah, that's very true for your deck, yeah.
They can take Gorehouse, Chainwalker, or Chandra. Even Chandra's things they don't want to do, because I can eventually get it back.
Like,
so
kill something that you have, maybe, or Boros Charm you for 4, really. I mean...
Which isn't bad. But
yeah, I wouldn't really... If I were to ultimate you, I don't know what I would take. Probably just Charm you, or because it also fucks me over in the Supreme Verdict department, so...
Yeah, that's true.
It would be Charm or Lightning Strike if I needed to kill one of your creatures. But yeah, it's a good point. Like, going up with Jace against you doesn't really end anything on their part once they get to the ultimate.
Yeah, and if they minus it to get the cards and Jace survives, then I can feel a little bit better about attacking him. But I don't like drawing all sorts of creatures against him. And that's been a real shortcoming of the deck, I think, in the last few weeks. It's just Jace Architect thought is very popular in the mono blue and control lists, and both of those are kind of problematic matches. So I did beat the Esper Control. It was a really close match, though. I ended up being at 2-1. Round 3, I played against my worst match, which is the Red Devotion, sort of mid-rangey deck. And this is like Frostburn Weird and Ash Zealot, and Stormbreath Dragon and Perforos, and the Burn Spell. I'm trying to think what kind of... Chain to the Rocks is in it, Mizium Mortars, and what are some more of the threats? Boros Reckoner, obviously, and then the Fanatic and the Hammer of Perforos. So it's got a lot of really good devotion spells. And this kind of has a weird place in the meta right now. It's not technically in the top tier, but I like its matches against those. And it was a deck that I was strongly considering playing for next Friday. But I will have to talk to you a little bit more after I say all the rest of my matches. But I did lose to that one, too. I had a mulligan to 5. And I kept a double Burning Tree hand with 1 land and just didn't get the second land before it was too late. So I usually do keep those hands with this deck, even though it's dangerous, just because 2 mana goes such a long way with everything I'm doing. And then it can lead to those situations where I just get screwed with 1 mana, because I get too tempted to keep the one land hands, like the 1 land hands that have maybe 3 1-drops in them too. They're really tempting to keep, because at least I'm staying busy while I'm finding a land. But they can go sour real fast in some matches. So I think that's ultimately what's kind of steering me away from this deck. It just doesn't quite have the place in the meta that it did a few weeks ago. It doesn't quite push through enough now.
Yeah.
I like it in some matches. It feels like I've seen some people doing like Fire Drinker Satyr out of sideboard. They have this like sideboard aggro plan. That I believe that's what the Red Devotion deck does out of sideboard. It just becomes into like a So there's some matches where that's going to be a lot better, where their mid-range plan isn't better than the mid-range plan they're playing against. So then they just want to go faster, earlier. Last round I played Junk mid-range, and I lost against that one too. And this is like Thought Seizes and Putrefies and Abrupt Decays, Loxodon Smiters, Unflinching Courages out of the sideboard, Advent of the Worm. So really good threat. It's a very strong deck against me, especially since I'm not packing Wear and Tear anymore. I can technically lose against an Unflinching Courage. But I am still packing the 4 Chain to the Rocks. But even that, I almost want to alter the number a little bit, maybe like 3, maybe another Boros Charm. I feel like a lot of times I like burning them out with Boros Charm, so I may have to, if I were to play something similar to this, I would want to alter how the spell count was being played. But I lost to that, so I ended up being 2-2, but I made top 8. I was the 8th seed, and the only reason is the 2 losses I had, the Devotion and the Junk mid-range, both of their losses were to the top 2 seeds. So my 2 losses were to the people whose only loss was the top 2 seeds, which made my tiebreakers good enough to get in. So since I was the 8th seed, I played the number 1 seed, which was Mono Blue Devotion in top 8. And ordinarily, like I said, very bad match for me. I managed to take it, which was awesome. Game 2, he had a mull to 5, which, you know, usually is devastating enough where you can't. It's hard to win on a mull to 5. It is possible, it's just it's rare. And then game 3, he mulled to 6 and kept, and I just had an aggressive enough start where he couldn't get on a road to recovery. I landed like a Burning Tree Fire Fist Striker turn 2, followed by either a Phoenix getting in or a Chain to the Rocks and another creature, and I was able to get in. So I was just able to continuously apply enough pressure where I could burn him out with either Boros Charm or Lightning Strike and get him down to that. So ordinarily a match that I would think is very hard. I didn't get to see the last breaths against him. So I ended up splitting for top 4, which is pretty awesome since I was 2-2 and I was for sure I wasn't even going to get into top 8. So it was kind of a lucky ending. So like I said, I was looking at the Red Devotion deck, but I'm also looking at sort of the green-red monsters list. And I'm probably going to have to borrow some cards from you to be able to do it. But I want to do something, because we've talked about this with our meta in particular, and I'm sure most people's meta, because Mono Black Devotion is a popular deck. We're looking at a lot of Desecration Demons, a lot of stuff like that, Pack Rats, you know, Underworld Connections, Thasas, stuff like that. So the reason I wanted to play Red-Green Monsters is I watched, and you watched alongside me, sort of the most recent iteration of it, and it was Elvish Mystic, Sylvan Caryatid, Boon Satyrs, Polychronos, Stormbreath Dragons. Do you remember any of the other main deck spells that list was running? Scavenging Ooze. There was no Burning Trees, which is really the part where I think I want to switch it up a little bit. It's running Gore Clan Rampagers as well, because those are versatile tools. I really like how the Gore Clans play with the fatties in the deck.
Worked really well for him too.
He was able to win on a turn 4 or 5 with a double Gore Clan in one turn on an elf. So that was crazy. His he did have to mulligan a couple times, which ultimately led to his losing those games. But when it was on, it was really on. He was able to power out some huge threats fast. Like he main phased a turn 2 Boon Satyr into a turn 3 Polychronos, and that felt like just an extreme amount of damage being put out fast. If there's no blockers, it almost the only removal in the deck it's main decking 2 Mizium Mortars, and it was the one we looked at was main decking 2 Clan Defiance. I'm not sure if he upped it to 4 Mizium Mortars main deck or something. I wanted to try the more devotion-minded one, so this would be Burning Trees back. Probably not Sylvan Caryatids, maybe Voyaging Satyrs, Nykthos. I want to do Arbor Colossus because we have a lot of Desecration Demons in the meta. So those obviously work really well because they can either trade or, you know, monstrosity and kill. Even against Mono Blue Devotion, you can kill a lot of stuff. I also like that deck can pack Mistcutter Hydras.
And play huge ones too that can get right through the Mono Blue Devotion.
Yeah, so you can swing for 8 or out of nowhere. They do actually have some blockers. They have both Rapid Hybridization and Mutavault. So they do have some ways to stop Mistcutter for a couple turns, which is sometimes all they need. They can tempo you out really fast sometimes. And Thassa always letting their guys get past yours is a big deal. So Mono Blue is still a very big threat. But I want to kind of try a creature deck. I want to try playing Stormbreath, see if I like it. I want to see if the Nykthos plan can kind of work, because I still like Burning Tree a lot. I probably still do Scavenging Ooze. I'm not opposed to that. I'm not sure how many Clan Defiance I want to do. The deck was also running 4 Domri Raids and some Xenagos. I think I like the Xenagos. We don't have Domries, so I want to do something in that place.
Hmm.
Maybe that's where the 4 Mizium Mortars can really come in handy, and a couple Clan Defiance.
Yeah.
And maybe some sort of split of Arbor Colossus and Stormbreath, but I really want to see how good Stormbreath is. From what I was watching it play, I felt like it played very well.
Haste is super relevant.
And it stops like a lot of the flyers in Mono Blue Devotion.
Hmm.
I guess it doesn't do much against Desecration Demon, which is kind of a problem. But and it doesn't have much removal in the deck for Desecration Demon. It's kind of a big issue.
Yeah, but
You can sack
you were
to
saying
it.
the Arbor Colossus anyway. You can sack your Mana Dorks if you're going to play Mana Dorks. Even sacking Burning Tree to it, not that bad.
It does work. So I even won a couple Mutavaults in there, which I believe his list was running as well. So I think I'm going to try, with your help, to do some sort of monsters list. See if I can find a comfort level for that. Like, I don't know how much ramp I want to play if I'm going to be doing Burning Trees. Like, maybe just the Satyrs is okay, but maybe I want maybe the Mystics too, because I'm running Arbor Colossus and Stormbreath, so ramping's important. The only real fixing you have is the Temple of Abandon and Stomping Ground. So Voyaging Satyr can kind of help with that too. I'll probably run maybe a few mountains. I don't know. I'm interested to see how important Domri is to the deck, or if I can get away with something that's not Domri, like more fatties.
Domri's good. It depends on how many creatures you're running, but yeah, Domri is very good.
I could do Garrick still too, and I believe his ran 1 Garrick. Maybe I could do 2 Garrick and 4 Xenagos, and see if I like the 4 Xenagos or 3 Xenagos. Because I can ramp into that fairly effectively. So I'll probably be doing 4 Elvish Mystic, 4 Voyaging Satyr, and they work fine with Nykthos too, I feel like, because they add 1 Devotion, plus they can ramp on their own.
Yeah.
So I really would like to try Clan Defiance out with Nykthos.
Yeah.
Because that might actually make it worth it to see if I can ramp huge, or even getting huge and playing an Arbor Colossus and Monstrositying it in 1 turn. That would take 11 mana, but that's possible when you have triple Devotion and, you know.
Yeah, I feel like it is actually very possible.
How good is Nylea? Maybe I could try her as a 1-of.
I've been really disappointed with her. The fact that she doesn't trample herself is pretty disappointing.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess I could skip out on that. I still want to do the Gorklan Rampager. I like the idea of playing that as just a 4/4 trampler, which is nice too. At least trades with a Smiter or something like that.
Yeah, actually, I would go with Gorklan Rampager over any Nyleas, you know.
Okay. It only adds 1 Devotion, but I also like that the Burning Trees can add double red Devotion if you need it for your Stormbreath Dragon. I feel like that's an actual useful thing. If you can't hit your double red, you can get the
I see what you're
Devotion
saying.
on Nykthos.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
So you can actually, if you're short on red and you have enough mana, but not the right mana, you can use your Burning Trees. Yeah,
that's a good point.
So it's kind of useful for that too. And I don't know, sometimes Burning Trees just win the game. The way that how aggressive his played out made me feel like you can play Burning Tree and not get punished too badly, but he's probably tried those, iterations. I guess I just sort of need to see what the problem is with that build before I can decide. So I might try and do that for the next FNM.
It might just be that the Nykthos thing is just too combo-y for him in particular, But his build looked really solid anyway.
And maybe I even want to consider Mistcutter Hydras if I'm doing Nykthos, because I'll have enough mana to support a huge hasty creature. So since I'm missing the Domries, I can sort of take a look at that.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I think that's going to be the next direction I do for the decks. But this one had a pretty good run. I just started losing the last few weeks. I'm glad I got to end on a top 4 split. Okay, on to the Weird Harvest card for this week. Weird Harvest. Alright, the Weird Harvest card is Great Wall. This is a card from Legends, obviously based on the Great Wall of China. Symbolism there. Why don't you talk about Great Wall, read the stats on it.
This is a 3-mana enchantment, 2 colorless, 1 white, and creatures with Planeswalk can be blocked as though they didn't have Planeswalk. Or, to the layperson, creatures with Planeswalk may be blocked as if they did not have this ability.
Before we start, kind of a cool. We haven't talked about this on Weird Harvest yet, but when did they do the shift from the old white mana symbol to the new white mana symbol?
It was after Fallen Empires. I think Fallen Empires is the last set to have the old one. And the old one actually looks very similar to Ortsov's symbol, in my opinion.
Now, what was the reasoning behind changing the white mana symbol? Because if you didn't know, it's more of like a sun sort of image now, but it used to. I guess it was still kind of a sun then too.
Yeah, maybe we should look it up on Google or something. Just the old white mana symbol.
Good old Google. Old white mana symbol.
There, see, it was. I think probably the problem is that it's awkward. It was literally uneven and weird looking.
It was less defined than the current one. The new mana symbol was introduced in Ice Age, except for Philgian Prismatic Ord, which used the old symbol. Is that right?
That's funny.
Didn't look like it in these pictures. Maybe these are reprints?
No, they're not.
Huh.
Oh wait,
They
it
were
says
reprinted.
the Gatherer image has the new symbol.
Oh,
for
it
those
shows the
cards.
new symbols. I see, but they don't have them. Okay. So that's interesting,
That
except
is
for a
really
couple
weird.
cards. But yeah, you can sort of see it here, how there's a difference between the two symbols. But back to the card.
Anyway, yeah.
Would this card have been more playable had it been, let's say, all landwalk abilities?
Yeah, I think the problem with this cycle in particular was that it shut down the landwalk abilities of each of its own color. So you were screwing yourself out of the potential to landwalk on your opponent by playing these cards yourself. And like you said, why did it need to be
So specific.
yeah, so specific? They actually did fix this. I think they printed Staff of the Ages from Ice Age that stopped all landwalking abilities.
And now, Jake, why don't you answer the question of how many creatures with Planeswalk are there?
There are currently 4 creatures with Planeswalk. 3 of them appear in the old card frame. 1 of them was printed in Legends. The next Planeswalk creature that was printed after that one was printed in Odyssey. And then I think that was it, Graceful Antelope. It must have been Odyssey. And then Portal 3 Kingdoms had Zodiac Rooster. And then after that, it was not until Shadowmoor with Bogart Arsonist that we got another Planeswalk creature. And then they also printed an enchantment that gave all white creatures Planeswalk. So not only could you stop your Planeswalkers, you could also give your opponent's white creatures Planeswalk as well to trample all over you. So they just... I don't know what they were thinking with the original landwalk abilities. Clearly, Planeswalk doesn't make sense for a lot of reasons. If you can't see somebody walking across the plains, then you'd have to be blind.
It's also funny that this is an enchantment.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have the feel. I mean, it's called Great Wall.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, wall creatures were the only defender creatures.
Yeah.
And this isn't even a creature.
That's a good point.
So
yeah.
it's like, why are you calling it Great Wall and it's not even a wall creature?
Right.
And why would it not be like maybe an artifact or something? It's an enchantment, which means it has like mystical powers, but it's literally, the picture is like a row of rocks stacked on top of each other.
Not even like they're like, you don't even see them bursting through with the power of magic or anything like that.
Yeah, there's no like aura standing off of it or gleaming off of it.
Yeah.
It's not showing creatures that are being prohibited from getting past the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything
You're
about
not
this
led
card
to believe
is
that you can't
just
climb
funny.
this wall.
It's currently got to be one of the lowest rated cards on Gatherer. Its rating is 1.113, which is just out of 5, which is just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's a funny card. I wanted a copy of it for our crap draft pool because I think it's so funny.
It's so useless. You really do need to at least include them.
We were going to have, a couple. Maybe. Most of them are really bad. Like, I at least want the 5-mana 3/1 Planeswalk creature in the crap draft.
Really good. Or really good is a bad one. I mean.
Really good is a bad creature, I agree. Graceful Antelopes are almost too good for
and
crap.
even maybe the Bogart Arsonists are too good too.
But
So
still,
maybe
we'll make
just
sure
the Righteous Avengers then.
we have a Planeswalker
So yeah, the
creature
Trump
in that.
to it.
But we've had a craft draft for a while. We just haven't brought it into the store and played it yet, but we can do that anytime. We should almost re-look at it because I wanted to make. I really lowered the bar on how much, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What kind of trash we were putting in there. I didn't even let like kind of good cards get in there.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be
My
the
problem was
worst.
that I was just evaluating them as like tournament playability when we were putting them into the cube.
And I wanted even worse than that.
Yeah.
I wanted it like limited bad, all sorts of bad that you could think.
Basically useless.
And there's quite a few of them. And there's some cards where you can't even really put them in crap because there's like no way to even make them useful. You know what I mean? Like snow-related stuff is like too difficult to put in.
Yeah, that's really regretful too.
Unless you add snow lands to
Yeah.
it, but then it's too much of a hassle.
It is too bad.
Because there are some terrible cards out there. Some really terrible. A lot of old artifacts that you have to like sacrifice and to get one mediocre ability off of it. You're
Dark
like,
Sphere comes to mind.
yeah, there's some really awkward old cards. Great Wall is no exception. So very old card that should be in crap drafts.
I think the rest of the cycle is actually pretty bad too. I mean, I don't really understand this being done as a cycle. Like Great Wall totally takes the cake, but none of them are good, you know. I think it's Quagmire, Deadfall, Crevice, and God, what is the blue one? I can't remember what the blue one is.
I've never even heard of these.
Crevasse.
2 in a red. Crevice is 2 in a red. Creatures Mountain Walk maybe blocks if they not have this ability. Okay, I see. So they have one for each
Yeah.
color. Great Wall, I think the reason that I picked it is it's clearly symbolic of the Great Wall of China, and Planeswalk is, I think, got to be the least landwalk
They
ability.
had to print that creature in Legends so that this card made sense in the cycle. So that's, I mean, Swamp Walk, Island Walk, Mountain Walk, and Forest Walk had all been represented before and in Alpha, I think.
It's just so funny to think of a card printed that literally interacts with 4 cards in the game. Or
and
5 cards.
One card at the time, too. Like, that was the real kicker. It was like, this 5 mana 3/1, it had 1 toughness. You could kill it with anything. It was going to ruin your day.
So it's just such a weak card. And just funny. And a pretty bad picture, too. Sorry, Sandra Everingham.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't your fault and you had more to this image than what's showing. But from what they showed, it's a pretty boring picture.
Yeah.
We're looking at a dull, sort of grayish sky. We're looking at a weird perspective on a wall.
It would have been fine art for Wall of Stone.
It's not a creature.
Yeah.
The wording's weird. It's narrow. This is a hilariously bad card and funny to look at in retrospect.
It is really bizarre.
I think that's going to be it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you get your Great Walls.
Pick them up now.
Pick them up now before they're sold out.
Before they
Why don't we check the
Planeswalk
price?
site.
I'm trying to think of the best place to check prices on it.
I'm really wondering what the blue one was.
You can get it for 36 cents, guys.
Oh, look. Even up close, the art looks even worse.
Or TCG, 13 cents, the low price. So get your Great Walls now before they're out. It's actually a cool bordered card. I like the whole old nostalgic look of cards, which is the only appealing part of this card, I would say. But Legends is chock full of...
I love Legends as a set. I have to say
chock
that.
full of old bad cards.
Yeah,
so.
even with their terrible, terrible cards. If somebody gave me a box of Legends,
Be a fun one to draft.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
Or do sealed, something like that.
Draft would be, I think Draft would be out of this world with a Legends box. I'm going to say it. That would be a lot of fun.
Because you get to play with a lot of bad cards.
Yeah, but just some of the rares were really cool too, like the Abyss and Nether Void. Some of those were really cool cards.
So, yeah, going to keep digging up these weird cards for you for next week.
And taking suggestions.
Yep, and I'm really hoping next week we're going to have some more spoilers for you as well from Born of the Gods.
Yeah, we should have a lot more. They should be beginning spoilers in earnest on Tuesday.
Excited to see the new mechanics. Excited to see some of the demigods kind of colors we're looking at
Yeah,
here.
I really want them to just lead with that as a spoiler so we can just get it out of the way what they're going to do for him.
And what the theme is.
Yeah.
Excited to see new mechanics. That's always a very exciting part since that sort of defines the meta a lot of the time. Like Devotion, completely shaping the meta. You know what I mean? Literally the top 2 decks are monocolor Devotion decks. Getting power from that.
Devotion is just, it's a status, really. It's a way to shorthand something, right? So I'm just trying to think of how they're wording the new gods. Because it's really strange they've got 2 different colors to be devoted to. So it's a hard one to figure out.
Yeah, to see what they're going to do with it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that they'd make both colors devote to each other, because that would seem too good. But it also wouldn't reward you to kind of split up your devotion. So
Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's like, truly, if you're a multicolor god, you should want to be devoted equally to both parts. But it makes sense to let you have a total devotion to work toward from, like, a mechanical standpoint, you know, so that you can play it more freely in a heavier deck X or Y, you know, like...
yeah, maybe if you have devotion in both colors, up to so if you have 5 of the combination of those 2 colors, maybe you get some sort of ability.
But then they already generate 2 devotion, you know?
Oh, where they... Oh, I see. Yeah, Perforos generates 2 of his own 5, though, right?
None of these gods do. So I was thinking they might just...
No, Perforos does, though. He generates 2 of his 5 devotion, because he's 2 and 2 red.
No, he's not.
Oh, he's not?
No. They're all one of their color.
Oh, I thought for sure he was. Okay. Okay, so all the gods are just single?
Yeah. Thassa's the cheapest, and all the other ones are Hill Giant cost in their own color.
Okay, so I guess, yeah, then it wouldn't be able to devote 2 for itself, and you know for a fact that they're going to be multicolor demigods?
Yeah, I think they have to be multicolor. Because there are 15 of them, so they're doing them for 1 for each color and then 1 for each color combination.
Well, maybe it's not going to be devotion at all then.
I know, and that's what I was thinking, but we'll see, I guess. Because to me, it makes more sense to cost them as a regular creature, allow them to always be creatures and enchantments, but make them cheaper to cost based on your devotion to, like, both those colors, or something in that range, you know?
I guess it's too early to speculate. We
Yeah.
really don't know what they're going to do with that, but it's going to be interesting to see more god creatures, because they're still going to... Is it going to say demigod, or is it going to say someone god?
Oh, it'll be a god, yeah.
Okay.
And they're not calling them demigods. They're just...
Gods?
They're lesser gods, I guess, because they're... I don't know, they're not even lesser gods. They're just gods.
Okay. So we're just going to see a whole mess of new god creatures. And we're going to see if they diverge from devotion or something in the same vein. Alright, that's going to be it for this week. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you later.
Later.